Hi everybody, very welcome to Mentor and yet another video podcast. As always, I hope you're doing absolutely fantastic. Today on the video, guys, 2019. It has been a very bad year for the aviation industry, but how bad has it been? And what are the reasons for it? Also, what's going to happen in 2020? Stay tuned.
Wind 31016, turn right, turn right. Third land, 31 right. Delta 260.
This video is brought to you in cooperation with the Mentour Aviation app. And why? Well, that's because these kind of things that I'm talking about now, aviation news, economical news about the aviation industry, about incidents, accidents, things like that, is exactly what we are providing inside of the app. So if you use the free download links down here, you'll get insights into what experts are saying about the forecasts about 2020, what I think about things, and also about anything that happened that is of any kind of relevance for the aviation industry. You can also go into the app chat or to the forums and discuss it with other users, or watch instructional videos where I show you how to, for example, set up a 737 from dark and cold until it's ready to taxi. So check it out. Right, guys, so 2019 has been a bad year for aviation. I think we can all agree on that. When 2019 started, the aviation forecast for the year was a profit of about $34.5 billion. Now, as we're starting to conclude 2019, it's actually $10 billion less than that. So it's about $24.9 billion in profit, which still sounds like a good thing. But to put it into context, it's about $2.1 billion worse than the profits were in 2018. So instead of being a record good year that was forecasted, it's actually turned into a fairly bad year. And I'm sure that you guys have noticed that. The news are full with talks about bankruptcies of airlines in Europe. The low-cost airlines are closing bases and they're cutting down on routes. So what's happening? Like the business was booming just a few years ago. Why is it suddenly not doing that and turning the other way? Well, if you've followed my channel for a while, you know that I always say that the aviation business is cyclical and also that it's really, really sensitive to outside interference. So that means that whenever something happens in the world economy, the aviation business tends to be the first business that reacts to it. That's because it's extremely volatile. Okay, we're very, very dependent on oil prices and the overall economy. If the overall economy is not good, well then people will not take weekend trips to Milan to shop. The first thing that they will cut down on are their travel patterns, and that impacts directly onto the aviation industry. The same goes when they stop shopping things on Amazon. That goes onto the freight part of the aviation industry, and all of that has a direct impact. But 2019 was bad for more reasons than that. So the most obvious one that you followed through this channel as well, made several videos about it, was the two crashes of the 737 MAX. Okay, obviously the loss of human life, all of that is a complete tragedy. But for the business in itself, it has had major impact. And that is because the 737 is one of the world's most common aircraft to fly short to medium haul. And the 737NG, the previous model of the Boeing 737, is not being manufactured anymore. So the fact that the MAX was grounded and cannot go out and be delivered to its aircraft customers, it means that not only are the carriers, the airlines, not being able to expand in the way that they were forecasting, but in many cases the old NGs are either being sold off to other airlines or being scrapped, and in that case they're actually contracting. Right, they're becoming smaller, and that has a direct impact on the aviation industry, specifically the short to medium haul, both in the United States, which is kind of the economical motor of the aviation world, and in Europe, where a lot of low-fare companies have bought a lot of 737 MAXes that are not coming now, and that is having some real impact. So that was in the beginning of the year, in March, Okay, but of course, a part of the year has also been a lot of uncertainty, a lot of global uncertainty. There's been the trade war that is brewing between the United States and China, and the United States are putting tariffs in place on many other countries as well, which is slowing down economic growth. And when that happens, once again, the airline industry is impacted. Then you have civil unrest. The type that's happening in Hong Kong, for example, has had a major impact on Cathay Pacific and on Hong Kong Airlines, and on any airline that is traveling into Hong Kong, which is a major economical hub. We also had Brexit. Now, the whole saga surrounding the Brexit, when it would happen, how it would impact the aviation industry and all of the industries in the UK, in Europe and the rest of the world, has been kind of taking 2019 hostage. It was supposed to be happening in May, and then it was postponed to, I think, September, and now it's postponed a further couple of months into 2020. Now, one thing that the airline industry does not enjoy, it is uncertainty. And uncertainty has been the kind of prelude to anything that has to do with Brexit. The biggest victim of Brexit during 2019 was, of course, Thomas Cook, one of the oldest and one of the biggest travel companies in the world, went under. It had to do, at least according to the management, largely to do with Brexit and the fact that people were unwilling to book travel when they didn't know if their tickets was going to be valid or not before and after Brexit. So that, together with management strategies, overall cost and everything, brought this giant under, which caused a lot of pilots to be set out into the unknown of being unemployed. They have been largely absorbed by other organizations like TUI, for example, and other Airbus and Boeing operators out there. But of course, a bankruptcy of that size during 2019 just turned it into an even worse year. Then, if that wasn't enough, we have seen the rise of something we call in Swedish flygskam. And the overall consciousness that the climate crisis is a real crisis and that the aviation industry has a big part in that. Now, flygskam, which is called flight shaming, has been spreading, and it's affected the amount of people who've been traveling, especially in Sweden, but throughout Europe during the past year as well. It's taken down the need for travel. People are preferring to take the train or something else that has a less of an environmental impact. And this is likely to continue during 2020 as well, as people become more and more conscious about the CO2 emissions and so on. So there are also talks inside of the European Union about a tax on aviation fuel. Now, of course, the airlines are fighting that tooth and nail, because if there will be an environmental tax on aviation fuel in the European Union but not outside, well, then airlines that are operating in the European Union would be adversely affected, in comparison to the airlines that are flying in from outside of the EU. So we will see in 2020 what's going to happen with that, but it has definitely been a very, very tumultuous 2019 with regards to CO2 emissions, flight shaming, and just general awareness of the public that maybe short trip to Milan to go and buy yourself another handbag is not the most ethical thing to do. So what's going to happen then? Well, in 2019, North America has been the kind of engine, the economical engine that has been driven in. More than 65% of all the revenue has come from North America, while the likes of South America, the likes of Africa and the Middle East have been suffering a lot because of mainly the 737 MAX crisis. Now, this is likely to continue in 2020 as well. What we're seeing is that potentially there will be a little bit of a slowdown in North America. And as the 737 MAX returns, then we are hoping that the South American market, the African market, the Middle East market, and also the European market is going to start rising. Now, a caveat here is it depends a little bit on how quickly the MAX gets released back into the market. Because if there's too much increase in capacity in a too short time span, that might drive the prices down, the revenues of the airlines down even though they have been complaining about the MAX not being there, if it comes back too fast, then it's going to become a problem. So the MAX needs to come back, but at a fairly moderate pace, so that the airline industry in the affected places can start rising nice and slowly. And in that case, what we are likely to see are more job opportunities, a better 2020 from a pilot perspective. And hopefully, if things like, for example, the trade war between China and the US get solved, well, in that case, that removes some more of the uncertainty. On top of that, we're likely now to see that Brexit is going to be resolved in one way or another. So I am predicting that 2020 is going to be a much better year for the aviation industry than 2019 was. 2019 was an extraordinarily bad year. Even though there hasn't been any major, except for the 737 MAX, any major economical downturn, it has still been an extraordinarily bad year that has had huge impact on the aviation industry. And I am hoping, and I do believe, that in 2020 we will see a positive turn. Things will start to get better. There will be even more jobs in the industry. And we'll see. When I sit here in a year again, we will summarize 2020 and see if I was right or not. Right, guys, that's it. I want to wish you all a very happy new year, wherever you are out there in the world. It's been lovely to have you as part of the channel during 2019. I hope you want to follow me as well during 2020. I hope that you've subscribed and that you've highlighted the little notification bell so you know when I do live streams and things like that. Have an absolutely fantastic day wherever you are, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Right, guys, I really hope that you liked that. If you want more content like that, more aviation content, well then, check this out. I hope that you have subscribed to the channel and that you've highlighted the little notification bell. See you inside of the Mentour Aviation app, and have an absolutely fantastic day. Bye-bye.